Blog Talk Radio.
He is the last of his kind. All that remains of a once powerful nation. Some think he is a myth. Some believe he is the chosen one, who will bring balance to a world at war. And some will stop at nothing to destroy him.
Welcome everybody to Moorish Talk Live 100. I'm your host, Tarhaka Black, and this evening our special guest will be Dr. Walter Williams. The topic of conversation is who built the Vatican in Rome? Who built it? Who built the Vatican? What is the true story never told? Why is the true story never told? Were the Moors ever in Rome? And if so, why? Why was the Vatican built in the first place? These are just a few of the questions that we're going to be dealing with here this evening. Keep in mind our special guest is Dr. Walter Williams, the author of the book, The Historical Origins of Christianity and the Historical Origins of Islam. And he's got another book that'll be coming out very, very soon. And maybe a good idea if you guys can get your pencil and paper so you can take some notes on this stuff, because we're going to lay it out here this evening. I'm going to go to the commercial breaks, and when we come back, we're ready to go in. Y'all hold on a moment. What is native iron technology? How does it benefit our health? How does it take away the pain in your body? Well, the secret is out. Go to www.newdeadelimination.com. That's www.newdeadelimination.com. And right there on the home page, below the red writing, watch the video demonstration. Every lady in America needs to be there. Check it out. If you got any questions, call me, Tarhaka Black, 904-303-9061 before 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Right below the video is all the information that you need to get a hold of this type of technology and this product, and it's always, also marketable, and you can network with it. Call me, 904-303-9061. Go to www.newdebtelimination.com. What does Tarhaka Secure Party and Creditor package entails? Private consultation by phone and email, the correct system for paying your property taxes in the private, the documents you will need to conduct business and transactions, public and private, Tarhaka Library, documents for status change in commerce, master study manuals, and trust guides, free credit repair with all 3 credit bureaus, a business for you in itself, educational materials on DVD and CD sent directly to your postal box, 1099's education, and how to file, how to become a private banker the right way, asset building, protection, and investing. We also, for all of our clients, host our private conference calls. To access this kind of education and power, go to www.newdebtelimination.com or call me directly, 904-303-9061. Also keep in mind, we have the top, best financial advisors there is.
You don't have to lose your home due to foreclosure. You don't have to worry about child support. You don't have to be in credit card debt. Have no fear. Tarhaka Armana El Bey is here at newdebtelimination.com. Got student loans, child support, mortgages? Contact someone who's got the experience and the knowledge to get you back under God's law. That's Tarhaka Armana El Bey. He's been there, he's done that, and he can prove it. Just give him a call at 904-303-9061. That number again is 904-303-9061. And log on to newdebtelimination.com. That's newdebtelimination.com and get yourself free.
All right, Moses, we're back. Before I bring in my distinguished guest, I'm going to be bringing you some information from his book, The Historical Origins of Christianity, because we want you to know why we are doing what we are doing and dispensing this particular information. And so this is what he wrote in his book, The Historical Origins of Christianity. He states the following: as we approach the dawn of a new century, the Western communities continue to consolidate themselves politically, economically, and militarily. Yet the power behind these societies go far beyond their military bases. The key to Western power can only be gauged by its ability to control people throughout the world. To that end, the Western world has incorporated a philosophy of psychology, where myths, lies, and deception are the order of the day, and death and destruction are the Western ways of life. Historically, as you progress through time, you will eventually encounter a powerful triad of religions, Islam and Judaism. All of these religions have had strong mass appeal and persuasive powers, and they remain the most powerful tools in the Western world's arsenal of controlling forces. These religions served as the ultimate sentry for Western world interest. They were developed and perpetuated to preserve past gains, enhance present gains, and ensure future gains. Contrary to popular belief, Christianity serves as the foundation for both Islam and Judaism. To understand the historical origin of Christianity is to understand the true nature and purpose of religion itself. To understand religion is to take it out of the romantic and mysterious and mystical and expose it as having no historical realism or boundaries. The only boundaries these religions have are that of the writer's imagination. Those are very, very powerful words in his book, the introduction to the introduction written in the book, The Historical Origins of Christianity. And without further ado, I'm going to open up the phone line and bring my distinguished guest in this evening. Y'all hold on. Dr. Walter Williams, you're on the air. Are you with me?
Yes, I'm here, Brother Tarhaka.
Welcome, 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 my brother. I'm glad to have you back on the 5th of November so that we can talk about this Vatican and this Rome thing. And so we can find out, because this thing it's been mysterious. It seems to me they talk about everything involving the Vatican and what's going on there, where the Pope going, and he's dispensing love here, he's doing that there, he's talking about bringing peace and all that. But, to me, those are just hollow words. I want to get down into the crux of this matter, how this thing came to be, what they're doing over there, who built it, and the whole 9 yards. And so
well, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. We listening.
Well, where I have to start first, Brother Tarhaka, is that I have to take you to, and the listening audience to, set up the Nile Valley civilization, or what I call it, the African Ancient Egyptian Commonwealth.
Okay.
And in that Commonwealth, you will find, as I reveal to you, the Moors. Okay? And again, I'm going to remind the audience that the name Moor is a nickname. Okay? Now, let me go back and set up the African Ancient Egyptian Commonwealth, a.k.a. or commonly known as the Nile Valley Civilization. Now, we have to start with where the source of the Nile is emanating from. There are two places where the Nile River gets its water source, and that's from Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania, and Tanzania borders Uganda. And that water coming off of Mount Kilimanjaro empties out in Lake Victoria in Uganda. And the second source of water coming into the Great Nile is coming from Ethiopia, from the Abyssinian Mountains. So those are the two spots that we must start off with. We'll give the listener something to go and use as a guide to further understand about the Moors and about the ancient Egyptians. So you have to set that up first. I have to set that up first because the Moors is a descendant of the ancient Egyptians. Now, let's go back. Again, the source of the Nile, one of the main sources of the Nile is coming from Mount Kilimanjaro in Uganda, in Lake Victoria and Lake Albert, and the three cataracts that's in Uganda, which is a 125-foot waterfall that takes that water and keeps it flowing north into and through the Sudan, okay? Until it travels all the way up until it reaches the Blue Nile. And see, the water that's in and coming from Mount Kilimanjaro through the Sudan is called the White Nile, and then you have the Blue Nile water coming from Abyssinian Mountains in Ethiopia. So now let me set the countries up that make up what is known as the Nile Valley Civilization. Now, you have Uganda. It's one of them, where the first and main water source is feeding into the Nile River. And then you have Abyssinia, a.k.a. also known as Ethiopia, where the Abyssinian Mountain is furnishing the second body of water that feeds into the Nile River, which is called the Blue Nile, and the Nile River that's in the Sudan is called the White Nile. And then you go up to the third country, which is Egypt. Egypt is the capital of the African Ancient Egyptian Commonwealth, also known as the Nile Valley Civilization. Now, you have 6 other countries after that. Going west of Egypt, you have Libya, Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco, and Mauritania. So you take those countries that I just named, that they consist of the African Ancient Egyptian Commonwealth, with Egypt being its capital. So you got all along North Africa, you have those countries. Egypt is one. Libya, going to the west, is one. Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco, and Mauritania. Okay, so I want to set that up in the listener's mind that those countries furnished what is known as the Moors. See, the Moor, like I said, is a nickname. That name is used to hide the identity or the true identity of the linkage that the Moors have with ancient Egypt, or by them being actually ancient Egyptian citizens during the time of antiquity. So now, in 1051, a European white country, Spain I'm talking about, asked Africans from North Africa to come into Spain and bring civilization to them. Now, the world's first and oldest civilization was set up right there in Africa, in Egypt, from the culture of the ancient Egyptians. There in Africa came forth civilization for all of humanity. So that's the world's first civilization that's ever been set up on the planet that we call Earth. And then the second civilization, I'm going to talk about it now, was set up in Spain by those Africans who are descendants of the ancient Egyptians, who are now known in history as the Moors. They get the name Moor because the Spanish who asked them to come in, they didn't invade in. If they had been invaders, then the Spanish language would have changed. When you go in and invade a country, you conquer that country and the people living therein. So therefore, the conqueror don't speak the conquered's language. The conquered people speaks the conqueror's language. So that never happened. So anyway, they were asked to come in. That's the reason why I said they were asked to come in. And while there in 1051, they set up a civilization for white European Spain. The first thing they did was set up literacy. Anytime an individual go to school, the first thing that you learn is your ABCs to make you literate. Your ABCs enables you, the human being, to read, write, and spell. So the first thing they set up was literacy there in Spain for the uncivilized, savage, heathen, Spanish-speaking people. So they set up a school system there. That's the first thing they did. And then the second thing, they set up a government for Spain. The third thing they did, they began to build buildings throughout Spain, Seville, Granada, Toledo, Cadillac, etc., etc. Those cities was built by the Moors. Now, they call those Africans, I'm talking about the Spanish, called those Africans that lived along North Africa, who were descendants and direct descendants of the ancient Egyptians. They called them Moors. Why? Because they, as a departing point from North Africa, they used Mauritania and they used Morocco. So therefore, they were given the name Moors. Also, with that name Moor came black Moors. And black in Spanish means Negro. Now, Negro is going to become very important as we progress in the finding out who the Moors are. Now, so therefore, they are now known and called by the Spanish-speaking people black Moors. In other words, Negro Moors. So you have to understand that. So black and Negro is synonymous. So therefore, this is the name that was given to them by the Spanish. Now, let's go back. Prior to them coming in, and I'm trying to lead the listening audience into, on the outskirts of Rome, in Europe, on the outskirts of Rome, where the Vatican was built. Now, in 532, Justinian and his wife commissioned an African architect and African builders to build them, or for them, the world's first Christian church. And that church is known as the Church of Hagia Sophia. Okay, the Church of Mary and Christ. Now, I won't go back. I'm going to continue to go forward. So in 537, December 27, 537, the Church of Hagia Sophia was completed. Okay, so now that became the very first seat of Christianity. Keep that in mind, the very first seat of Christianity. Okay? Now, in 1071, 20 years after the Moors were in Spain, you had an invasion coming from Afghanistan and other parts of Europe, coming into northeast Africa via Iran. And those people are known in history as the Seljukian Turks. Now, who are the Seljukian Turks? The Seljukian Turks came out of Tora Bora in Afghanistan. They came out of the Caspian Sea area, Afghanistan. They came out of the Caucasus Mountain that extends from Russia north into Afghanistan. They came out of Pakistan. They came from Azerbaijan, and they came from Armenia, and through Iran, they erupted into northeast Africa. Now, what they brought with them was different dialects from the different regions where they live. These are called Arabs now. Seljukian Turks, known as Arabs, coming in, usurping territory from the Byzantine emperors and the Byzantine Empire. Okay? And with them doing that, Alexis I Komentos called for the world's first crusade, and for the Crusaders to come into northeast Africa from Europe to save the Byzantine Empire and Christendom. Okay? So now, this was done in 1096. That was your first crusades coming from Europe. You had Walter the Penniless coming from Germany. You had another group coming out of France, and so forth and so on. But now, this sets up the Seljukian Turks, and then that was in 1071. And then you have, in 1300, you had what is known as the Ottoman Turks coming in and overrunning the Seljukian Turks, and they took over completely. Okay? And they began to intimidate and usurp land from the Byzantine Empire also. And then the Byzantine emperors were afraid that Christianity, or the seat of Christianity, would be disrupted or destroyed. Now, they had built this world's first Christian church in the double-walled city of Constantinople. Constantinople today is known as Byzantine Turkey. Everything was in Turkey, northeast Africa. And so let me take you from the time that this church was built, finished being built, started to be built in 532, finished in December 27, 537. And then for 908 years, that seat of Christianity was in northeast Africa. 908 years later, here comes John VIII, knowing that it was just a matter of time that the Ottoman Turks is going to break through the double-walled city of Constantinople and seize Constantinople and the Hagia Sophia, the world's first Christian church. So in 1439, he went into Florence, Italy, at the Curia there. The word C-U-R-I-A means college. This is at, and this is 42 years after the beginning of the Renaissance era for the Europeans. So in 1439, he relinquished and released the donation of Constantine so that the seat of Christianity could be moved and transferred out of Northeast Africa, out of the double walled city of Constantinople, out of the Hagia Sophia into Europe. So 6 years later, and after John VIII relinquished that authority of the seat of Christianity to be moved, 6 years later, Eugenius IV and Nicholas V designated land area on the outskirts of Rome over the catacombs. The catacombs is where the Europeans buried their dead in the ground. And they asked the Spanish, and they asked the Moors to come into to come into the Vatican and build what we see today as the Vatican over there as it stands today. Okay? Now, that's how the Moors got into the Vatican on the outskirts of Rome. Now, let me go a little further. That was in the year 1445. In 1445, they began to build St. Peter's Church, known today as St. Peter's Basilica. Now, if an individual has my book, The Historical Origin of Islam, on the very front cover of that book, The Historical Origin of Islam, you'll see a picture there of the world's first Christian church, which is the Church of Hagia Sophia. Now, St. Peter's Church, known as St. Peter's Basilica today, have the same dome, but a smaller version of it. So there was only one race of people that knew how to build that type of architecture and design that type of dome to be placed on a church. None other than the ancient Egyptians. Now you got the Moors, who are the descendants of the ancient Egyptians, building the same type of church and same type of dome on this church, but it's called St. Peter's Basilica or St. Peter's or the Church of St. Peter. Okay, that's there, over there in the Vatican. Also, I want to let you know that the Vatican, as I speak today, is nothing but a replica of the double-walled city of Constantinople that was in Northeast Africa, where the Church of Hagia Sophia was housed. The same identical replication that's in the Vatican today was put there by an African people known in history as the Moors. Now, the Moors also built the Sistine Chapel, okay? And that was done in 1472. Sistine Chapel, as you know, is where the Pope, that's his residence, okay? Also, the Sistine Chapel is where there's a lot of artwork there. Michelangelo was a contributor to the artwork. And other European artists came along and made their contribution in the Sistine Chapel by way of bringing their art there. Okay, Raphael was one of them. Okay, so now I want it to be known to the listening audience that it was the Moors who built the Vatican, beginning in 1445. They built St. Peter's Church, known today as St. Peter's Basilica. They built the Sistine Chapel over there, which is in 1473 they did that, which is the residence of the Pope. They were the ones that did that. Why? Because the Europeans did not have that technology, because you were right there in the midst of the Renaissance era. The Renaissance era is an era that the Europeans supposed to have come out of the darkness into the light. okay, the age of learning for the Europeans, okay, and it was an African that came over in Florence, Italy, and turned the lights on and started the Renaissance era for the Europeans, and that African was named Manuel Chrysaorus, who was born in Constantinople, Turkey, who in 1397 went into Rome because he was a teacher at the Hagia Sophia, which was the Hagia Sophia had all African staff, teachers there. And that was the first university for the white males, white males, during the time of antiquity. So Emmanuel Chrysaorus went into Florence, Italy, turned the light switch on. It's like an individual walking into a dark room, and you hit the light switch and the lights come on. That's what he did for the Europeans and kicked off the Renaissance era for the Europeans over there. So it was the Moors who built the Vatican, who built that double wall city that is known today as the Vatican, who built a replica of Constantinople that was over there in northeast Africa. So that is very important information for our listening audience to know and learn. Now, what happened to the Moors? Okay, the Moors, it was decided that by the Spanish and the Vatican to get rid of them. The Moors had been in the Vatican for 33 years, building what you see over there in that Vatican today. Okay? And the Moors had been in Spain for 394 years over there, building and bringing civilization and literacy and a school system and a government to Spain. They also introduced public bathhouses over there, thereby introducing soap for the very first time to the Europeans. If you sometimes listen to or see the History Channel, they sometimes just tell you that soap was introduced into Europe for the very first time in the 12th century. That was done by these Moors, introducing public bathhouses in Spain, thereby introducing soap to the Europeans. Okay? Now, what happened to the Moors? Why is it that that the public, the world populace, do not know about the Moors being in Spain? Why is it that the world populace, especially not knowing about the Moors being in the Vatican or building the Vatican? There's a large segment of us and others know that the Moors were in Spain, but I never heard anybody talk about the Moors being in the Vatican. Okay? Now, what happened to them? Now, it was decided by the Spanish and by the Vatican to get rid of the Moors. So what happened, Ferdinand and Isabella created what is known as the Spanish Inquisition. Now, in the meantime, the Roman Catholic Church and the country of Spain had allied with each other. Okay? Spain was the first country in the world to embrace Catholicism. Okay? So they allied with each other. Okay? So now, Spain became the armed forces of the Vatican or of the Roman Catholic Church. Now, Isabella and Ferdinand and Isabella created in 1478 what is known as the Spanish Inquisition. And they hired a man by the name of Thomas de Guatemala to be the Inquisitor General to get rid of the Moors out of Spain for racial and religious purposes. Also, at the same time, that Thomas de Guatemala was also the Inquisitor General for the Roman Catholic Church. So you have the same Inquisitor General, Thomas de Guatemala, with the same purpose as Spain had in mind of getting rid of the Moors. The Roman Catholic Church had the same thing. So therefore, you have the Spanish Inquisition from Spain, and you have the Roman Inquisition from the Roman Catholic Church at the same time to get rid of the Moors. So today you don't see any evidence of a Moor being in the Vatican. Okay? Now you may go to Spain and you may see some architectural, let's say, designs over there, such as buildings that will give you that will give you the remnants of the Moors being there, but they will run out of Spain. Okay, and 1478 as the beginning date to get rid of the Moors out of Spain for racial and religious reasons. Same date, 1478, for the Roman Catholic Church to get rid of the Moors out of the Vatican and out of from the outskirts of Rome, out of the Vatican, where the Vatican is on the outskirts of Rome. Now, let's move a little further. Now, as I mentioned before, in 1071, whereby the Seljukian Turks came by way of an eruption through Iran from Afghanistan, Tora Bora era, came from Caspian Sea area. They came out of the Caucasus Mountain era in Afghanistan. They came from Pakistan, which borders Afghanistan, and they came from Azerbaijan, out of North Russia, and they came from Armenia, which is also in North Russia. And they came by way as an invasion through Iran into Northeast Africa, usurping territory and threatening the Byzantine Empire and threatening the demise of the world's first Christian church there in Northeast Africa, which is known as the Church of Hagia Sophia, like I mentioned. Okay? Now, let's go back into another era. And we're going to go into 1492. We're following the Moors now. Okay? But before I get into 1492, let me go back to 1300, whereby the Ottoman Turks has created what is known as the Ottoman Empire. Now, there was a Moor by the name of Muhyiddin Ibn al-Arabi, who was born in Spain. He was a Moor himself. His name is Muhyiddin Ibn al-Arabi, alias Muhammad. Okay? Now, he died in 1240. A year before he died, his disciples, because he was teaching all through Egypt, he was teaching all over there in Northeast Africa, in Arabia and Turkey and Syria and so forth and so on. So he was well known in that region of the world. So he was a philosopher, and he had followers who followed him. They began to spread his doctrine a year before he passed in 1439. He died in 1239. He died in 1240. So therefore, a year before he died, they began to evangelize and spread his philosophy in Egypt, in Northeast Africa, and in Arabia and Turkey and so forth and so on. But a year after they began this disbursement of his philosophy, the Seljukian Turks came to power 61 years later, and they took up the philosophy of Ibn al-Arabi alias Muhammad, and they incorporated his philosophy in with their dominance of, by them being a dominant force or creating what is known as the Ottoman Empire or an empire. So what they did, they went around with a sword to all of their occupants of the territory where they occupied and dominated and controlled. They went up to these occupants who lived in the territory where they occupied and dominated with a sword and said, Muhammad or die. That was in 1300. So therefore, that was the beginning of the spread of Mohammedanism. Okay? And in the meantime, these Africans who are known as Moors, who are actually descendants of ancient Egyptians, they would travel from North Africa back to Spain. So therefore, they got threatened with the same threat that the other Africans in the territory that was controlled by the Ottoman Turks. They also had a sword put up their neck and said, Muhammad or die. That's the reason why those Moors became Mohammedanism, or Mohammedans. A lot of people think that the Moors were Muslims. Well, okay, they were a form of Muslims, if you want to say so. Or they said that the Moors embraced Islam. No, they didn't. They practiced and embraced Mohammedanism. Okay? Now, let me move to another era in history. We're going to come up to the time of 1492, when the Moors were being taken out of Spain by Isabella and Ferdinand and Isabella, and being kicked out of the Vatican. Let me tell you this before I get to this part. When those Arabs coming in that are known in history as the ones that speaking Arabic, but they had different dialects, and each dialect that they spoke, each one of them could not understand the other's dialect. So the Moors created what is known as the Arabic script. They created a standardized Arabic script. The word standardized is very important. Now, you have these people speaking different dialects, and they're known as Arabs, or they're speaking Arabic. Okay? Now, one Arab speaking his dialect couldn't understand the other Arab speaking his dialect. So the standardized alphabet, which is called the Arabic script, created by the Moors, will neutralize all that. In other words, they teach both individuals the standardized alphabet. So now, once they learn that, if I want to tell Brother Tarhaka something, and he don't understand my language, I can write it out in Arabic to him. And by him being taught in standardized Arabic, what I wrote out, he can understand it. And then vice versa. If you, Brother Tarhaka, spoke a Arabic language that I couldn't understand, but you were taught by way of a standardized alphabet, then you can write out what you want to say to me, and I can understand it. So that's standardized alphabet created by the Moors for that purpose. Now, also, let me say this to you, is that in those cities I was telling you about that the Moors created, such as Toledo, Seville, Granada, Cadillac, etc., throughout Spain, on the buildings that they built, the Moors would use on the exterior of these buildings and sometimes inside these buildings, the same Arabic script that is used today to write with. They use them for decorating purposes. Now, the closest thing that I can send the listener to is to the Cheesecake Factory. If an individual went to a cheesecake factory in the United States of America, you go in there, you will see semblance of and what you think looks like the Arabic script, but they use it inside for decorating. So that all came from by way of the creation of the Moors, creating this what is known as the Arabic script. So the only thing they did was took the alphabet from their ancestors, the ancient Egyptians, the Hieratic and Demotic, and they created a alphabet which consists of 28 letters with diacritics. So it's what I want to let you know and understand that the Arabic script was created by the people or the Africans that we know, call the Moors, for the Arab language-speaking invaders in Northeast Africa and in Egypt. So now, let me go to 1492 now. 1492, here you have some Moors on a boat with Christopher Columbus. Now, there's a debate that says that some say there's never been a Christopher Columbus. Okay, well, we won't debate that. Okay, I understand the debate. I know about the debate. I heard about the debate, and I know all about it. But we won't discuss that at this moment. We won't bring that into the picture. So we're going to say that the Moors came over in this hemisphere of the Americas with Christopher Columbus. Now, they tell you that Christopher Columbus discovered America. He did discover America for white people because the native American Indian was over here, and also with the Africans was over here. So therefore, this hemisphere was not lost, only unknown to the Europeans. So I'm going to clear that up. So now here you have these Moors over here in the Americas now. Now, they came over in 1492. They were over here for 127 years, and they set up the third civilization in this hemisphere of the world. Okay? Now, from 1492 to 1619, the beginning of the slave trade, is 127 years. So they worked on the development of civilization for this hemisphere. Okay? Now, here comes the slave trade. The slave trade was created by Spanish and the Portuguese and the Roman Catholic Church. Do not leave the Roman Catholic Church out of it. They played a big hand in the slave trade. In fact, the Roman Catholic Church had slave plantations throughout America, okay, here and there, throughout America, okay? So they're not innocent, so don't let them off the hook. Now, I'm going to get to the bottom line. What happened to the Moors? Okay? Now, they were erased out of Spain. They were erased out of the Vatican by what is known as the Spanish Inquisition and the Roman Inquisition. So now they're over here in this hemisphere. Okay? So now, and then you have the slave trade over here. You have the Portuguese, the Spanish, and the Roman Catholic Church going into Africa, getting humans out of Africa to be brought over in this hemisphere to be made slaves of. Okay? Now, once in this hemisphere, a long story short, is that what they did with the Moors to get rid of them out of the existence of a being over here in America was that they took the African, ancient Egyptian African known as the Moors, and the enslaved African taken out of Africa to be put into slavery, and they put them under one umbrella, amalgamated them under one umbrella, and under that one umbrella, they gave them the name of Negro. Okay, so therefore, I have a book called God Wills a Negro by Theodore P. Ford, written in 1939. Theodore P. Ford said in that book that the ancient Egyptians vanished and the Negro appeared. That's true. Here you have the Moors vanished and the Negro appeared. Now, mind you, let's go back. Let's use that name, or the names that was given to the African who was a descendant of the ancient Egyptians. Like I told you, coming from North Africa, which is also the Commonwealth, those countries along the borders of North Africa, Egypt, Libya, Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco, Mauritania, all made up of what is known as the African Ancient Egyptian Commonwealth, a.k.a. the Nile Valley. Now, here you have these Africans given a nickname, Moor, because of where they departed out of North Africa into Spain. Also called Black or Moor. Very important. Black and Negro is synonymous, one and the same. Okay? Now, here they are under one umbrella with these enslaved Africans. This is how they got rid of the Moor. They put them under one umbrella and called all of them Negroes. At that time, what did they do by doing that? They created a new race of people, altogether different, with a new identity and a new land identity. Okay? Now, you cannot go to the world map and pick out Negro land or black land or African American land. It's not on the world map of human geography. So therefore, you can only find this black person, which is synonymous with Negro, or this Negro person, which is synonymous with black and African American, living in the United States of America. That is what they're telling the world and teaching all African people, that our history started with slavery in this country. That's misleading. Today, as I speak, in Washington, D.C., at the Smithsonian Institute, they have a museum that they put up last September that was dedicated to the African American history and culture. So it was called. Misleading. It's misleading because it's telling the world and telling us Africans in this country that's where our history started from slavery in this country. No, So let's go back. They put the enslaved African under one cover with the Moors, and they called them Negroes. Negro and black synonymous. So let's go back into Spain, where that name came from. That name came from Spain, from the Spanish, giving that name to the descendants of the ancient Egyptians coming out of North Africa. You see? So therefore, this is how you can trace this Negro back to ancient Egypt. You see? So therefore, and before he went to Spain, he was a descendant of the ancient Egyptians, still is, but he lived in North Africa. And when he got to Spain, they called him Black, or Moor. You see? Or Negro, or Moor. So who is this Negro? He's a descendant of the ancient Egyptian. So this is what I have to say, and I'm sorry that it took so long to say it, but I hope that people can get an understanding of what I have said, Brother Tarhaka.
All right. Well, Dr. Williams, you've done an excellent job of explaining it. And I want to be consistent and take a look at the Vatican today and because a lot of people inside this country still believe that it holds some type of spiritual significance, some type of righteousness, or some type of benefit spiritually to people on the planet. In my opinion, based on what I know and based on the thorough investigation that we have done from our end, that's not the case. It doesn't exist. And so you've been telling us what's going on for almost an hour, so we'll give you a little break, and we're going to take a little peek at the Vatican, and we'll be right back. So
John, you say the idea of an existence of some sort of network of gay men or gay priests or high officials inside the Vatican isn't at all improbable, but do you believe that's the reason the Pope is resigning?
No, Anderson, I don't. I think for the most part you have to take Benedict XVI at his word that he's resigning because of his age and because of fatigue. Now, on the other hand, I think you have to ask the question, why is he so fatigued? And I think at least part of that picture is that he has spent much of the last 8 years frustrated that his efforts to be a teaching pope, to conduct a kind of global graduate seminar in the relationship between reason and faith and so on, have been hampered by a kind of endless series of crises and controversies and meltdowns, some of them coming in from the outside and some of them self-inflicted. So I think that is indeed part of the calculus, but fundamentally I don't think there is some deep, dark secret. I think this is one of those cases in terms that what you see is what you get.
John, what is known exactly about O'Brien? The allegations I've heard are a number of allegations apparently made by some current priests and even, I believe, one former priest of inappropriate efforts to have some sort of relationship or make some sort of pass at these people when they were priests. And this is a guy who, when the British government was considering, gay marriage, came out vehemently against it, saying, and I quote, their attempt to redefine reality is given a polite hearing. Their madness is indulged. Their proposal represents a grotesque version of a universally accepted human rights. I mean, if this guy was, in fact, making advances at other male priests, the level of hypocrisy is great.
Oh, well, you're right. It almost defies belief that someone would be leading such a double life and yet taking such a hard line in public. Now, of course, it is important to say that Cardinal O'Brien has firmly denied these charges. He's taken legal counsel, that is, he's hired a lawyer to help him respond to these charges. And so as this story plays out, it remains to be seen how much fire there is beneath the smoke. I think what's relevant for the Vatican at the moment is that this has resurrected the drumbeat of criticism that it has faced over the years, that it's sort of moral preaching to the world about sexual rectitude, in some cases at least, not matched on the ground by the behavior of some of its clergy.
It's interesting, Christian, because the church, there are some who are alleging that these revelations, these allegations, are being made in a way to kind of influence who the next pope could be. How would that influence who the next pope could be?
Well, this was perhaps, I would have to say, in my experience, a typical lashing out by those who are trying desperately to have a better spin on this story right now. I don't buy that. I think it's a typical defensive mechanism of people who simply don't want to hear the truth. And the truth is, if the church was trying to prevent, a cardinal from coming here for a reason it couldn't, because there are so many of them. I mean, the disgrace of this really is that it's touched every diocese in the United States. It's exploded across Europe under the auspices of, or rather during the reign of Pope Benedict. And I was told tonight that this is probably going on in dioceses all over the world. And one of the things that was incredible, one former priest said that, perhaps 50% of priests who enter the priesthood may be gay. I talked to a long-time veteran journalist here in Rome who said it's well known that monsignors and others in the Vatican conduct affairs either with women or men. The real issue here is there is a difference between having affairs and committing crimes against young boys, which is what happened under these priests for so many generations.
What do you make of the Church, the Vatican, coming forward and making a public statement saying essentially this is an effort to influence the picking of the next pope? I mean, that's an extraordinary statement for them to have made.
Their insistence is that this secret dossier, which allegedly talks about a gay lobby potentially having a role in the Vatican leak scandal, this dossier, so far as we know, has only been read by one guy, and that's Pope Benedict XVI. So the pretense to know its content, may well be open to question. So, I mean, one could argue that some sort of response had to be made, but I think the practical effect of using such high-octane rhetoric in that statement is that it has simply given additional legs to the story and made the hill the Vatican has to climb to get over this that much more steep.
Christian Amanpour, John Allen.
Okay, Dr. Williams, I'm back. Are you still with me?
Oh, yes, I'm here, Brother Tarhaka.
Okay. As far as the Vatican is concerned, and this is the way I have to see it, based on what I know about our ancient story and our people in ancient times, and especially involved in what's carved into pyramids in Egypt and other places, and the depiction of artwork and stuff, which is, to me, is a record to show behavioral patterns of the people. Now, in your opinion, since the Moors had come in and built the Vatican, in my opinion, they were there to build it, and after they built it, the people that commissioned them to build this thing is now taking over. So in my opinion, and this is just my personal opinion, I think at the time the Moors left and they took over, I think corruption started then. This is just my personal opinion. You have any comments on that?
I think you're absolutely right on that, Brother Tarhaka. And I'll, because today as we speak, and over the years from the time of the Vatican in the 15th century, it's been a haven for white male homosexuals and homosexuality. That's what it's been.
Okay.
And so you're absolutely right on that. I want to also further tell the listening audience a little bit more about that Vatican. Now, as I mentioned before, in 1439, John VIII went into Florence, Italy, at the college there, the Curia there, and relinquished the donation of Constantine, as in 1439. 14 years later, in 1453, Muhammad to a Ottoman Turkish sultan who was an Ottoman Turk over there, took a cannon and blew a hole in the double-walled city of Constantinople and entered the city of Constantinople and seized the Hagia Sophia. So if you look at my book on the front cover of the Historical Origin of Islam, you'll see, again, a picture of the Hagia Sophia with now minarets on it now, you see? So now, anyway, that is to let you know that they use that church as a prototype church for the world's first mosque, because prior to getting a hold and controlling that church of the Hagia Sophia, the world's first Christian church, before turning that into a mosque, they had open-air worship. And the person, it was open air, and they had trees nearby. And the person who called Al Akbar, in other words, to come to prayer, he went up in a tree, and that was the minaret, the tree. But now you have on the outside of the Hagia Sophia, on there in northeast Africa, in Constantinople, you have minarets there. The Church of the Hagia Sophia today, as I speak, is a museum that was put and created in 1932 1934 by the United States government. But anyway, from 1439 until Muhammad II entered Constantinople by blowing a hole in the double-walled city of Constantinople, entering and seizing Constantinople, and also seizing the Hagia Sophia, the first seat of Christianity. During that 14 years before he did that, and during the time of the building of the Vatican over there by the Moors, like I mentioned, those Europeans was coming into Northeast Africa, into the Hagia Sophia, and taking boatloads of artifacts and literature out of the Hagia Sophia. So today, where are those artifacts? Those artifacts are there in Rome, in the Coptic Library and the Coptic Museum over there, you see? And they got it under wraps over there, and they will not allow individuals. You cannot go in, allow the Vatican Library like you do a public library. No, there are restrictions. I don't know if they're still in force. They were. I knew 10, 20, 15, 20 years ago that in order for you or anybody to go into the Vatican to see and read some of the literature that came out of the Hagia Sophia and the books and manuscripts that's housed in there, after the Roman Catholic Church or members of the Roman Catholic Church went into the Hagia Sophia and took them out of there in boatloads. In order for you to get into that Vatican Library to read what they've taken out of there, you have to be a resident of Rome for 1 year. Number two, you have to have a letter from a recognized leading institution, a college or university or whatever that this Roman Catholic Church recognized. You have to have a letter from them. And the third thing, you got to write up why and what you're looking for and why you want to go in and use this library and what you're looking for while in that library. You got to write all that up. And if you find anything that you're looking for, you got to come back to the front desk and show them what you got, you see. And that's a requirement that was being enforced, I know, 15 or 20 years ago. So I don't know if they changed it or whatever the case might be. But that's how you get over there today, the Coptic Library and the Coptic Museum over there, because they came over there during that 14 years of transferring their seat from Northeast Africa, from the Hagia Sophia into, on the outskirts of Rome, into the Vatican. That's how they got that material and artifacts to create a Coptic museum and a Coptic library. Now, another thing I want to say is that the Vatican was used and still being used today as I speak as a incubator for homosexuality, and also I want to say that the Vatican, as I speak today, also know that there's no Jesus Christ. They know that. They won't tell the world that because, like Pope Leo X said in the 17th century, he said that the myth of Jesus has served us well, Pope Leo X. So they will not reveal to the world and free the world of this lie that they're sitting on over there on the outskirts of Rome. It's a lie, okay? But they won't tell the world that there's no Jesus Christ. And they know there's no Jesus Christ. And I challenge any pope of the Roman Catholic Church to come and challenge me on that, and I'll break it down for him. Brother Tarhaka?
Okay. Outstanding, brother. I have a caller with their hand raised. Keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, the phone lines is open. All you have to do is press 1 on your phone. That'll give me an indication that you have something to say. If you have a question for my guest, Dr. Walter Williams, press 1 on your phone. That'll give me an indication you have something to say, and I'll open up the phone line. I'm going to area code 818. That seems to have a question for you, Dr. Williams. Hold on. Area
Baba
code
Williams.
818.
Baba Williams,
Hey,
this is Brother Jay.
Hey, come on in. What's your question for our guest this
Baba
evening,
Williams,
brother?
how you guys doing this evening?
Hey, Brother Jay, how you doing?
I'm doing well. This is Brother Jay, Baba Williams.
Okay, glad it's your call.
You laying it out beautifully. I just wanted to get something for clarification, for more clarity. You said Thomas D. Guatemala, right?
Yes.
Is that the same as Thomas D. Tarhaka? Is that the same person?
Same person. I probably messed up his name, but that's the same person.
Oh, okay. Okay, just wanted to get that clarity in there. I know that you go off all memory. I just wanted to make sure that we were clear because I have it in my notes, and I said Guatemala. I think it's Tarhaka, but I just wanted to be clear about that. But
it's Tarhaka. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. Thanks for reminding me of that, and thanks for correcting me. I appreciate that.
Oh, no problem. I have one question for you, though, Baba Williams.
Okay.
You were speaking about the Moors, and you kind of covered this last night when we talked. Can you lay out for me that you said they were using different dialects in terms of the language when they were asked to come into Spain before the Arabic language was forced upon them? Can you kind of lay that out a little bit for the audience, just to give it a little bit more clarity?
No, there was no Arabic language forced on them.
Okay.
Even though ancient Egyptians spoke different dialects throughout Egypt, throughout North, West Africa, and so forth and so on. So, the last 5 known dialects of the ancient Egyptians, they are called Shahidic, Baharic, Thayyamic, Acmemic, and Sub-Acmemic, that went out of use in the 12th and 13th century. You don't hear those dialects anymore. So they spoke different dialects all over Egypt, different parts where they're regional. They call it regional dialects, okay? And they spoke different dialects in the countries west of Egypt, Libya, Tunisia, Algeria, and so forth and so on. So they didn't speak Arabic. It was the Arabs brought a different dialect into Northeast Africa. You see? Okay. And I'll tell you where they came from, out of Tora Bora in Afghanistan, out of the Caspian Sea area and so forth in Afghanistan, and the Caucasus Mountain in Afghanistan, Pakistan and so forth and so on. You see, so that's when Arabic first came in with the Seljukian Turks in 1071. You see?
Okay. Now, last thing. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I wanted to ask you. So the Moors gave they gave an alphabet to the Arabic language?
They had a standardized alphabet. Okay? Like I mentioned before. Mm-hmm. These different groups speaking their different dialects coming from the region where they lived and where they came from. Okay. They spoke their dialects, but each other come from a different area of the world, could not understand each other's dialectic language. So a standardized alphabet was created for them to learn the standardized alphabet, and that standardized alphabet is called the Arabic script, created for them by a African people known as the Moors, the descendants of ancient Egyptians, using the hieratic alphabet to create this Arabic script. In my book, or books, so if you go into the historical origin of Islam, I have a alphabetical chart there. If you go to the extreme right of that chart, you'll see 3 columns on the Egyptian. The second and third column is where the the alphabet that we use today is derived out of. And also the second and third column in that alphabet is where the Greek alphabet was derived out of. Also in that second and third column is where the Latin alphabet is derived from. And that's where the Arabic script was created from by
right on page
the Moors for the language. So, like I said before, it's a standardized alphabet whereby if the two factions who cannot not understand each other's language as it's being spoken to each other, they have been trained in the learning of this alphabet, and it's called a standardized alphabet. You see?
Okay.
So if you learn, if each side learn that alphabet, then they can write down what they want to say to each other, and each other will know what they're saying. That's the standardized, and that's the purpose of the standardized alphabet, Brother Jay.
Got it. Yeah, Brother Tarhaka, can I ask one more question? Not to hold up the time, but can I ask one more question?
Sure. Go ahead.
The question I wanted to ask was Manuel Chrysalis, the African that came from Constantinople. To turn what language or writing system was he using to turn to bring about Greek history or Greek writings into 1397? What language or writing system did he use to change it over to Greek and then in turn to Latin? What writing system was he using at the time, Dr. Williams?
Well, he used the Greek, what is known as the Greek alphabet. The Greek alphabet is nothing but a derivative of an alphabet created for the Greek language. Not the Greeks didn't create this, but for the Greek language, our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians, after being forced the language on them by the Greeks. Okay, and they learned that language and they created an alphabet for the language. Okay. So Manuel Chrysalis went over there in 1437 and introduced what is known as the rudiments of the Greek alphabet, the ABCs of the Greek alphabet. And later on, many years later, you have a derivative coming from the ancient Egyptian via the Greek alphabet into what is known as the Latin alphabet, and now into English. So so that's how it's done. Introduce to answer your question.
Thank you, Tarhaka, for having this master teacher on, and I think you're doing a wonderful job as well. But I'm gonna sign off, and if I have any other questions, I'm gonna listen to the rest of the show. And Dr. Williams, I'll come back for him at some point.
Right. Okay, Brother Jay. Thanks for calling.
Absolutely. You guys have a good night.
All right.
Okay, you too.
Okay. We back. Ladies and gentlemen, keep in mind that the phone lines are open. I'm going to ask you another question, Dr. Williams, before we go on another little quick break. And could you describe for us exactly what the donation of Constantine is? Was it like stolen artifacts or silver or gold or what?
No, the donation of Constantine is a historical event that caused the Nicene Council of 325 to come about. And in my book, Historical Origin of Christianity, I talk about three historical things that brought about the Nicene Council of 325, the world's first ecumenical religious council meeting ever held on planet Earth. And those three things it's in my book, The Historical Origin of Christianity, they are the Donatus Schismatic Controversy, a 310-311 controversy that broke out in North Africa in the 4th century among the ancient Egyptian secular community when Diocletian, a co-ruler of the Byzantine Empire, asked a member of that secular community, African ancient Egyptian secular community, to turn over sacred writings, certain sacred writings to him. That was to intimidate that community. See? So therefore, he was advised by Bishop Donatus and the Metropolitan Bishop Secundus not to do that. They asked him not to do it, but to let yourself be martyred like your predecessors before you. And he didn't do that. And that is known in history as the Donatist Schismatic Controversy. Now, with that controversy going on, that means that that community in North Africa was split. Like in 1987 in Chicago, Illinois, when Harold Washington died, our community, African community, had put Harold Washington in the 5th floor of City Hall in Chicago in 1983 by voting him the first mayor of African descent. And when he died in 1987, that community was split. And the European or the white male faction politicians in this country, in this city, saw an opportunity to come in and take that office of mayor from the African community. And they elected Mayor Richard M. Daley, who came up in between that controversy, because the controversy was that when Harold Washington died in 1987, that this white male political structure in Chicago picked a Eugene Sawyer, which our community did not want, because we wanted Tim Evans. So that split our community. And with that split, it weakened our community politically, and Richard M. Daley came up right in the middle of it and became the mayor. So now here you have the same split in the secular community in Egypt in the 4th century in Egypt. And as I described, it's called the Donatist Schismatic Controversy. With that split and weakness, Constantine, who was the emperor at that time, saw a chance to try and get our African community to worship the Serapis. There was no Jesus Christ at that time, only Serapis, you see. And going back, Serapis, known today as Jesus Christ, was created in 320 BC. So 320 BC up until 325 is a period of 645 years. They tried to get that image accepted into the secular community in Egypt. But our ancestors in the secular community refused to do that. So now, at this time of the weakness and the split in that community, Constantine saw a chance by getting the Serapis, known today as Jesus Christ, to be accepted in our community. So what he did, what is known in history as a donation of Constantine, he went into the secular community and found a man by the name of Sylvester I in 313 and 314 and offered him an offer that he could not refuse. And that offer is known in history as the donation of Constantine. This is how the donation of Constantine goes. The donation of Constantine goes like this. Constantine found Sylvester I in 313 and 14 and offered him his imperial emblems on a temporary basis if he, Sylvester, could get his people in the secular African community to accept this white image, then known as the Serapis, now known today as Jesus Christ, and accept him as a God in their community. And he said that all I want you to do, if you accept the donation of Constantine, is baptize me into the Coptic secular African community. Just make me part of you all. In other words, I have no authority because I'm giving you my authority on a temporal basis of my imperial authority. You have it over the Coptic Egyptian community, whether it's secular community or the Melkite community. In other words, you will be the head HNIC, and the head HNIC means the head nigger in charge.
Mm-hmm.
So Sylvester accepted that offer, and that offer is known as the donation of Constantine. But Arius came along, a member of the secular community, says, no, Serapis was a created creature, dissimilar from the Father. A perfect creature, but a creature nevertheless. The Father being Osiris. You see? So therefore, those three things, the Donatist schismatic controversy, the donation of Constantine, and the strong statement by Arius that I just mentioned, caused what is known in history as to come about the Ecumenical Council of Nicaea I in 325. And I think that I'm the only scholar out here of any color to make that mention, or to make that tie-in as to how and what caused the Ecumenical Council of Nicaea I to come about in Turkey. All the council meetings took place in Turkey. You had 9 of them took place there in Northeast Africa and Turkey. So that's the donation of Constantine, Brother Tarhaka.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Williams, you've done a fantastic job. And to me, I wanted to go back over there, and I knew you could deliver to get that piece of critical mass stapled into the brains of the people. We got somebody with their hand raised at area code 310. So I'm going to open up the phone lines and find out what question to have for you, Dr. Williams.
Okay.
Area code 310. What's your question or comment, or tell us who you are for our guest? Okay. No question or comment. Dr. Williams, we are hour and 32 minutes left on the clock. I'm going to take another little quick break and run and get me a drink of water, and I will be right back if you just hold on, okay?
Okay, now.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, y'all hold on. We will be back.
When other people tell their history, they come across as being patriotic. When other people talk about where they came from and who they are and what their history is, that's called patriotism. But when African Americans do it, or when black people do it, they're labeled as being militant. They're called rebels. They're called Afrocentric. So that's the big difference. Our history, for some reason, it becomes offensive to people. So we have to stop being afraid to tell what our true history is.
Studies will show that the dominant population here in America especially, and in Europe, have wanted to claim everything for themselves. And so they have made up a lot of stories as they travel to places. And as we know, all of the places that the so-called European or the white explorers traveled, when they got there, black people were already there. Some kind of black people, or yellow people, or red people, or brown people. You as a black man are the root of all of the civilizations. Every body they've ever found, every tomb they've ever raided, whatever it was, they found something symbolic of the black man, either our features, your nose, your mouth, your head, the way we look, our hair, even braids, everything.
The makeup of a human being's self-esteem, self-image, and self-concept is not only based upon one's family history, but it's also based upon one's racial history. So when you look at the self-esteem of black people and black children, you can rest assured that at least 50% of how high or how low it is contingent upon positive information that they know or don't know about who they have been in racial history.
And over the last, I would say, 1,000 years, there has been a protracted effort and an ongoing effort by those in power, the European powers especially, to make sure that what we have done as an indigenous, or what we call autochthonous peoples, earth's autochthonous peoples, is erased irrevocably from the minds of all our people.
Only a people who haven't learned how to respect themselves will let someone suggest themselves that they forget about the history.
If you know yourself, there's no way that anybody could ever do the things to you, or would you do the things to you and yours that we find ourselves doing. So that, and in many ways, I don't really think it's hidden. It's there. It's just that they're not allowing us to understand.
Okay, I'm back. Dr. Williams, are you still with me?
Yes, I'm here, Brother Tarhaka.
Okay. This is what I want to ask now, because the way I look at things, Dr. Williams, I look at it straight. I look at a lion straight in the face. I don't get off on no magical tidbits, no on the sideline stuff, and maybe there's some type of explanation. I just call it like I see it. And when it comes to people on the planet, you want to be respectful. In my opinion, I want to be respectful to everyone by just stating the record. You know, what's your record? What does the record state? What are the facts? I'm not talking about any magic. I'm not talking about something I believe that I ain't never seen, and somebody I believe in that I ain't never met. None of that. I'm just talking about straight, common sense, face of the lion, straight. That's the way I like to deal with stuff. And in doing so, I feel like I've been quite successful at diagnosing the behavioral patterns of the people. And when I see certain things happen, it's not surprising to me, because it matches the ancient historical patterns of behavior. A record speaks for itself. For instance, I think it was this morning, about 11 something, you had this little Caucasian boy take a AR-15 machine gun, go inside a church, and just start shooting and killing people. Now he's just like the guy in Los Angeles that was shooting from the hotel and killing people. He's not viewed as a terrorist. Now the one in California, he killed over 58 people. This boy murdered over 27, and they're coming out and said, well, we're not viewing this as a terrorist attack. However, a gentleman took a truck in New York City, was it yesterday or day before yesterday? He ran in and killed 8 people. That's a terrorist attack. He's a terrorist. This is terrorism.
Wow.
It is quite amazing to me, because I'm just looking at the facts now. This is all I'm doing, looking at the facts. We got a caller with his hand raised at area code 312. 312. I'm gonna open up your phone line if you got a question for our guest. Tell us who you are, where you're calling from, and what's your question for our guest. 312.
Good
you're
afternoon.
on the air.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon,
Good
brother. Who are you?
This is Brother Yoel. I'm calling from the Windy City here from Underground Bookstore in Chicago.
Brother Yoel, what's up, man?
Hey,
welcome,
man.
welcome.
Trying to get a handle on this thing, man. I'm listening to y'all. Just help me to get a handle on this thing, man. Because I've been trying to get a handle on this thing for a while. Because I've been looking at at Vatican for a while. So, good professor. Good evening to you.
Good evening, Brother Yoel.
All right. So, and thanks for this evening to you, Tarhaka.
You're welcome.
I've been looking at this, and a brother put me on this trail of this old Vatican and whatnot about, I guess I would probably say about 13 years ago.
Okay.
A brother came to the city of Chicago, and for some reason he was fishing around how this whole the Vatican is. He had an interest in it himself, and he also had a very interest in this Bavaria coming out of Germany and all of that too, and who those people were. But coming back to this Vatican thing, he made me think and consider that, because when you're trying to find the truth, there's more than one way, as they say, to skin a cat. So one of the ways is through architecture, when it comes to the finding out the truth of who did what and all that stuff. Architecture, language is another one. Way of finding out who did what. Architecture. When I look back at that time that we're talking about, the question becomes, had you civilized him such that he had that kind of knowledge that he could build such a facility in the first place?
Correct.
And of course, the answer would be no to that. But then when I look at that, they show you tidbits, and you have to be watching when they show you the tidbits. I saw a building similar to that also supposedly in somewhere in England, or I'm not sure if it's London, but I think it is. And then you got Washington, D.C. You got these buildings looking similar architecture for some reason. Now, so when I look at the Vatican, so that's what made me start thinking, well, who are these people who build the Vatican? And I know right now we see on the walls the paintings and stuff like that on the wall with Michelangelo and all of them. You see white images. But the question in my mind is, because now in these days, I don't believe nothing of what these people say too much anymore. Everything is food for thought and grounds for further investigation. So I asked myself the question: is that those pictures what it really looked like when it first was built, or that's something that they done changed and painted over later over the years? And I know that the Vatican, the St. Peter's Basilica was first built in Constantine's time, right?
No, it was in 1445. No. Constantine time was in the 4th century.
Right. Well, according to their record, they're saying it was first commissioned to be built in 318, I think.
No, what are you saying? What was first commissioned to be built?
The Basilica.
No. You're mixing that up with the Hagia Sophia. The Hagia Sophia was commissioned to be built by Justinian and his wife Theodora in 532, and 5 years later they finished in 537, December 27th. Now the St. Peter's Basilica, or St. Peter's Church, known today as St. Peter's Basilica, was first being built in 1445. Okay, and that was built by the Moors, those Africans over there. They spent 33 years over there in the Vatican, developing the Vatican over there for these Europeans. Okay, so therefore the St. Peter's Church, known today as St. Peter's Basilica, was first began to be built in 1445. Now, the Sistine Chapel was also built by the Moors in 1478. I'm sorry, 1473. Not 78, but 1473. And that's the residence of the Pope. Now, contributing artists throughout the years began to donate their artwork to the Sistine Chapel, such as Michelangelo. Now, the Sistine Chapel was built 2 years before Michelangelo was born. He was born in 1475. You see? But the Sistine Chapel was up and being built before he was born. You see? And then you have another contributing artist of European descent, was Raphael. The Sistine Chapel was built 12 years before he was born, because he was born in 1485. You see? So you have to take the discipline and use the discipline of history to understand what history is all about, which consists of, like I always say, and you always heard me say, time, people, places, events, and literature. That is what needed for an individual to document events and time, people, and places, and things like that. So that's what I said of that.
There is an old St. Peter's Basilica then.
No, there's only one St. Peter's Basilica. That's over there in the Vatican.
I mean today, but there was one before this one.
No.
Because according
there
to
was
their history, there was one. The first one was, the old one was supposedly built in the 4th century, would be in the 300, something like that.
No. Listen.
Okay.
The world's first Christian church, the world's first Christian church, the world's first church on earth was the Hagia, the Church of Hagia Sophia,
right?
Built in 532. Commissioned to be built by Justinian and his wife Theodora. African architects and African builders built that church. It began to build it in 532, finished it 5 years later, December the 27th, 537. That's the world's first church ever existing on planet Earth. Okay? Now, your second church, which is attached to Catholicism, is this church of St. Peter's, of St. Peter's Church, known today as St. Peter's Basilica, built in 1445. Now, you have another church that was built in Paris. It's called Notre Dame. Okay? That church, they began to build that church in 1163. And 67 years later, 1230, you had the erection of Notre Dame. Okay, it took them 67 years to try to farm around and build this church over there, and of course they had Africans helping them. But that's the first church built over in Europe was the Church of Notre Dame. Okay, like I described, started to be built in 1163, finished 67 years later. 1230. But the seat of Christianity is what I'm talking about. The seat of Christianity. Very important to understand that. The seat of Christianity went from the Hagia Sophia out of northeast Africa into the outskirts of Rome, over the catacombs, and that seat and that church was called St. Peter's Church, known today as St. Peter's Basilica, built in 1445.
Okay, now, right, stop right there. When you look at that, the other thing that goes off in my head is who made that decision, and who were these people that making these decisions that moved it from Northeast Africa to Rome or Italy into Italy, at that time? Who was making that decision?
Okay, who was making that decision was John VIII, who was the Byzantine ruler at that time, knowing that it was imminent that the Ottoman Turks will eventually break through the double walled city of Constantinople. Constantinople today is known as Byzantine Turkey. They will break through that double wall and seize the Church of Hagia Sophia. They knew it was imminent. So they said, John VIII, who had ecclesiastical authority over that church by way of the donation of Constantine, that he'd taken back. Justinian had taken back that donation of Constantine from Vigilius in 555. When he took that donation back from Vigilius, the Coptic Egyptian. He took it back, who had it in his authority by way of the donation of Constantine. He took that donation back from him. Justinian did that in 555 from Vigilius. So therefore, the authority of that church was in the hands of every succeeding Byzantine emperor after Justinian. You see? So now in 1439, John VIII went into Europe, into Florence, Italy, at a curia there. The word curia means college, at a college there, and relinquished what is known in history as the donation of Constantine, his authority over that church, in order for it to be transferred to and on the outskirts of Rome.
Oh, okay. Now,
who had the authority?
One other thing. Then that was supposed to be John's making the decision to do that. Now, then in my mind comes the question of who was this John and where was he? What color was he? Was he an African?
No. He was a
who built this African facility there?
No. Listen to what I'm saying. No. You're missing the boat. Okay. Yes, the donation of Constantine was taken back from the Africans by Justinian in 555 when they took it back from Vigilius. They ran that man all over Africa, all over northeast Africa, after him to relinquish the donation of Constantine. And when they found him, they murdered him and took it back.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore, every Roman emperor succeeding Justinian had the authority over that church. Okay. So John VIII in 1439 had that same authority of the donation of Constantine. So therefore, he relinquished the donation of Constantine so the church could be transferred to Hagia Sophia, could be transferred into Europe. And that was in the 15th century, 1439. 6 years later, Eugenius IV and Nicholas V, over the catacombs on the outskirts of Rome, they began to build what is known as St. Peter's Church, and with the help of the Moors, like I mentioned before. They were the ones that built and designed that church of St. Peter's Basilica. Okay? Because if you look at St. Peter's Basilica today and you look at the dome of the Hagia Sophia, it's the same thing. The St. Peter's Basilica has a smaller dome than the Hagia Sophia. And then the same people that built those two domes, those Africans, who were descendants of the ancient Egyptians, in 1792 built the capital. That building is called the White House with that dome. Same thing. Same architect that built that. All three domes. In 1792, the dome on the White House, built by Africans. And guess what they tell the world? That the Africans that built that dome were slaves. To keep you from knowing that those Africans were Moors. To keep you from knowing that those Africans that they called the Moors were descendants of the ancient Egyptians. They don't want that to be known. They say, these were slaves. In fact, when you hear me talk about the Moors was over here at the same time in 1619 when the Spanish, the Portuguese, and the Roman Catholic Church went into Africa, took human cargo out of Africa, brought them over here, made slaves out of them, amalgamated them and mixed them in under one umbrella with the Moors. And so they have the Moors and the enslaved African under one umbrella, and they call them Negroes. And at the same time of them enslaving those Africans that they brought out of Africa to be made slaves over in this hemisphere, they also made slaves out of the Moors, who were all mixed in with them. Okay, they were also enslaved too by that same type of form created by the Spanish, the Portuguese, and the Roman Catholic Church. Except for the Africans living in non-slave states, they were free. You had over 380,000 free Africans living in this country during the time of slavery. Okay, 12 years of slavery was attested to that movie called 12 Years of Slavery. It was attested to what I'm talking about. But anyway, that when they put the Moors and the slave African taken out of Africa under one umbrella, that was a way to get rid of the Moors out of history, put them into slavery. You see? And my wife Arnett and I, we went to Savannah, Georgia, about 10 years ago or more, and we went to America's oldest Christian church in Savannah, Georgia, and that church was built by Moors, Africans, who were enslaved in the state of Georgia, but allowed to come and build. And the proof that these were Africans and that they were Moors, they carved their names in the pews of those seats that are pews in the church. They carved their names in Arabic, and that was on the second floor of that. They took them out. They put new pews in, but the old pews was kept on the second floor. And I went up there and took pictures of them, of those names carved in Arabic. So, you have to use the discipline of history. You can't go by what rumor is saying. Very dangerous what rumor is saying. Always check out things for yourself. And then once you check out things for yourself, then you have it as ironclad information with dates and people and places and events and so forth and so on. So that's what I have to say to you, Brother Yoel.
Yeah, and I get you, but on the other hand, I'm looking at using the discipline of history. His story now has been the one that's messed us up. So we can't go totally by his history when he's confounding and confusing one history.
Okay, here, Brother Yoel.
Let me get in there. Let me
tell you this. I'm trying to listen. You say his story. I'm trying to tell our story. I'm trying to tell our story. I'm trying to unravel all his story. His story is full of lies. I'm trying to bring the truth and facts, which are stronger than argument, more profound than reasoning, more dependable than opinions. Silences disputes, supersedes predictions, and facts always end the argument. So I'm trying to tell our story by way of using the discipline of history to do that. See, everything I tell you, you come back with a but. When you said but, you're not getting what I'm saying. That but is very dangerous. Stop using but.
Oh, hold on, y'all. Hold on. We got another caller with his hand raised. I'm coming on in. We finna settle this in right now, because I'm finna come straight off page 1 that states Greek gifts, Western technology, coming straight out of a book written by a gentleman named Michael Bradley from the Iceman Inheritance. And then we go into our next call at area code 205. Prehistoric sources of Western man's racism, sexism, and aggression. Now once we get this here, that's out. Okay, here we go. This book is racist. For among other things, I will attempt to show that racism itself is a predisposition of but one race of mankind, the white race. I believe that I can show that our covering contemporary crises like racism itself have their origins in the prehistory of the white race alone. We attribute various threats to our survival to man's folly, but this is a conscious and self-protecting euphemism. Nuclear war,
environmental pollution, resource rape, all are primary threats to our survival, and all are the result of peculiar Caucasoid behavior, Caucasoid values, Caucasoid psychology. There is no way to avoid the truth. The problem with the world is the white man. If this insight has generally escaped us, it is only because we Caucasoids have dictated much his story, written most of it, and judged it in terms of our own self-image. But we have never looked at ourselves in an objective biological mirror, and that is what we shall now proceed to do. Our racial psychology has brought the world to the brink of disaster. That's out, man. I'm going, y'all hold on, I'm going right down here to area code 205.
Peace, brothers. How are y'all doing this evening?
Fine. How you doing,
sister? I am doing great. I'm doing wonderful. I am enjoying this conversation. It's lively, it's informative, and I have a question for the good brother, Professor. My question is, now, I don't know, this may not pertain to the churches and the Vatican and Rome and, you know, all those pedophiles over there, but this is pertaining to the Americas. Now, there's been this old rumor that Christopher Columbus discovered America. And my question is, with all the churches that was built overseas, over in Europe, and how old these churches are, and they were built by the Moors, you know, our people, can you tell me, was not our people over here in America at that same time? And how can they say that we just come from, our people just was stationary over in Northern Africa and in Africa, but none of us was here? How can that question be answered? I just want to know that.
Okay, well, here, my sister, if you heard the beginning of my commentary on the Moors and so forth and so on, I said at the segment that in 1492, on a ship that was owned by Christopher Columbus, brought the Moors out of Spain because of the Inquisition that was created by Ferdinand and Isabella and the Roman Catholic Church to get rid of them for racial and religious reasons. I said, but over in this hemisphere was never lost. Why? Because before Columbus came over here in 1492, you had Native American Indians living here and Africans, I said. I don't know if you heard that part. They were already here before Columbus got here. They had been here for years, living in this hemisphere. So when Columbus got over here and he discovered America, he did discover America for white people.
Well, yeah,
okay?
I heard that part. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, I heard that part. Okay, but you didn't hear that. I said that.
I didn't hear the part where, you know, we had always been over here by us being, you know, when he did discover America for the white folks, he described our Moors, our people, as Indians. Because I want to know where the proof is to distinguish the so-called American Indians and us, you know, or as our people per se was Africans. I want to distinguish the two. I can't seem like for me, separating those two types of racial groups just didn't exist. It was just one people.
Well, see, it didn't exist in the schools. It doesn't exist in the school system. They have, you got to remember, we have been taught away from any historical knowledge pertaining to us as an African people, including teaching us away from ancient Egypt. So therefore, you're not going to get any inkling of that ever in the school system. So that's the reason why you don't know it, that you have to dig for it. You got to become aware of it, like you are consciously aware of it now. So therefore, you will begin to investigate like you're doing now, okay? So they're not going to give you and tell you that. Now, here about 6 or 7 years ago here in Chicago, they had an exhibit in Chicago called Africans in Mexico. They had that exhibit over there where the Hispanics live in Chicago at a museum ran by Hispanics and Mexicans. And I went to that, saw that exhibit. So that's one way of letting the cat out of the bag, that the Africans were living over here with the Indians. The Mexican, he is considered an Indian too. You see, you have different forms of Indians, different nationalities of Indians. But remember, and you can do your own research, the African was already over here before Christopher Columbus came over here discovering America for white people. You see, he's already here. You see?
Well, yeah, I understand it. Yeah.
Okay. Now, what you do, there's a book called America BC by Barry Fell, F-E-L-L. And that book will show you and trace for you all over America where our ancestors were and had been, because they left traits of themselves as they went along. You see? So get that book. It's called America BC by Barry Fell, and read it and study it. Read it more than once until you can internalize the message in it. And that will help you find answers to questions that you're seeking. Okay?
Well, yeah. And also, what we also need to do, and what I am also doing at this point is researching the oldest pyramids on the planet. And, you know, I'm pretty sure, that I can get some answers from that. That would be really a good topic to speak on, too, as well, because I'm pretty sure that would shed a lot of light on our people as well.
Okay.
You know, not only just old churches, but the pyramids are much older than that around this world, on this earth. So.
Okay,
that's
now to add something to what the sister was saying, when one is trying to investigate a perpetrator when he commits a series of crime, they look for patterns. And what she is saying, pointing in the direction of, is a pattern. And by that I mean, when you look at China, China's first two dynasties sit on Africans. When you look at Japan, their dynasty set on Africans. When you look through Europe, you see Africans. When you look through America and over here, you see Africans. So she's saying that could those people that they supposedly call one name could have been still African, but they call them Indian?
Well, yes, just use the common name that is being used today until you can learn better or know better by way of research. Research in history and the subject that you're researching, you need to go to the origin of that subject to find the beginning information that will give you answers to your question. So using just the common name of the Native American Indian, that way you can understand what I'm talking about. She can understand what I'm talking about. Everybody listening can understand what I'm talking about. You see? So I gave her good information to start her research. Get that book and begin to study that book, America BC. It'll give you information that you need to have in order for you to answer these questions that she's seeking. Okay? So
okay, I will. I appreciate
now.
It.
Yeah, and the pyramid.
I will get that book. Yeah.
Sweetheart, before you go, and you're looking for the oldest pyramid, right?
Yes, I'm researching that right now.
Okay, here's where you start. You find the world's first and oldest civilized people on earth. And once you understand that civilization and those African people, then you'll find all about the pyramid.
Okay, I appreciate
Find
that.
the people first. Find the oldest people first. And from the oldest people, you'll find that they have built the pyramid. They're the ones that built the pyramid.
Okay.
Any other questions, my dear?
That's all. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
And thank you for calling.
And by the way, the sister can get that book through Underground Bookstore if she wants to order that book by Barry Fells. And also, they came before Columbus and before the Mayflower, if you've forgotten about those. Sister.
Well, I'm pointing her to one book. I don't want her reading a whole lot of books, because you read a whole lot of books, you'll get confused. Okay? Read one book at a time. Now, she can get that from the Underground Bookstore here in Chicago, where my books are sold. And that's Brother Yoel. We have him on the line, the owner of the Underground Bookstore, Brother Yoel. And I recommend anybody that wants to order my two books, Historical Origin of Christianity, Historical Origin of Islam, and the book by Barry Fell called America BC. You can order it from the Underground Bookstore, and you can call and contact Brother Yoel at area code 773-768-8869. Again, 773-768-8869, the Underground Bookstore. We have the owner of the bookstore on at this very moment that I'm talking, Brother Yoel.
All right, I'll go to the Underground Bookstore. I'm online right now, so I'll go with that. Appreciate it.
Okay, my dear. And thanks so much for calling here.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, sis. Thank you. I got another question to add, to further add to the discussion. Doc, and both of y'all can weigh in on this one. Now, this movement of the Moors seemed to be very powerful and a significant movement. My question is this, because when I first got to hearing about these Moors, and the brother told me, but see, they have navigated the boats over here to America with doing Columbus and all of this, and I said, oh, you the perpetrators, or y'all was complicit in teaching these folks over how to navigate over here to America, and we've been suffering ever since. So I don't know whether to love them or hate them sometimes with what they did. So is there significance, spiritual, or what? Because they seem to be all over the place and doing things that is strategic. Now, I already got my answer to that question, but I wanted to see what y'all had to say on that.
No, you give your answer. Give your answer.
I think it was definitely spiritual things that was taking place, but the picture is bigger than what most of us look at, and we can't look at necessarily what they do or what they did, but look at the bigger picture when it's all finished. When it's all finished, then you'll see that it was a spiritual reason behind that, and sometimes that spiritual reason is not necessarily known to those individuals who perpetrate or who's doing this and who's cooperating with the Europeans, but some of them may spiritually know what they are doing, and they are strategically following spirit and establishing what they established.
Are you talking about the Moors? Are you talking about the Moors or the Christopher Columbus?
Moors.
Okay.
Moors.
Now, what spiritual thing were they following, you think?
The end story is, to me, is that that we are all moving through a cycle in life here, a cycle in time, and they are strategically moving us through that cycle, helping, in some cases, looking like it's helping our enemies, which it is, but on the other hand, that helping our enemies sometimes mean helping you to discover who you are.
Okay.
That's how I see it. So in the end, it's about you waking up and smelling the coffee and see that they are really contributing to the making of a new more and a new more man and a new more woman today.
Okay, I can see that, brother Yoel. I can see that. So what you're saying?
Stronger this time, though.
What was that?
Stronger this time, though.
You said stronger what?
Stronger than the last ones. You know, you ever heard that term? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. With all that we went through, it hasn't killed us. So it's obviously made you stronger.
Right. No, I can see that.
Let me shed a little light on some things that might help this conversation along, because when before I met you, Dr. Williams, I had already been for years doing an investigation on our people and looking at behavioral patterns of the people, you know, where they went, what they done, that gave me keen insight to the point where if somebody else came and said, well, these people went in and did this right here and did that right there, that automatically lets me know that it was either my people or it wasn't my people. Then I got a hold to Stolen Legacy by George G.M. James. They came before Columbus, and then the Sheikh Anta Diop's work. What else? The Introduction to African Civilization, Destruction of Black Civilization by John G. Jackson and Chancellor Williams. And then finally, I ran into you. But what I had become accustomed to doing, my research involved investigation of the people. I had never heard the term until you mentioned it about people, places, times, events, and literature. I had never heard that. But what I was involved in is looking at what they done when they got there, what they done during times of war, when they were fighting against themselves, during times of war, when they fought against somebody else, and all of this stuff. And what really, really struck me is when I got to The Moors in Spain by Stanley Lane Poole, and this was the first time that I had came into contact with the word Moor. Prior to that, it was Africans and Egyptians, African Egyptians. But when I got over in the Moors in Spain and I started looking at what the Moors are doing, I said, well, the only people that I know of in our ancient story that ever done that and carried these type of behavioral patterns were the Egyptians. There's nobody else that I know of. And then you came along and said the Egyptians and the Moors are one and the same people, and then I said, okay, I'm getting his books tonight, and because he has tied the knot for me to know exactly what he's saying, because I've looked at the behavioral patterns of people. I don't see it duplicated by no other people on the planet other than these people, and they got to be one and the same people. They got to be, because they're doing the exact same thing everywhere they went. And this also matches, because I've been in construction most of my life. Used to build caps and columns for bridges, build a football stadium here, and I would watch the brothers and the brick masons and cement contractors and finishers and stuff, and it is their behavior and the way they done things was consistent with the same way that the Egyptians. Matter of fact, we built the part onto a school, and the people that had the contract to do this one but two men. It was a Caucasian gentleman who was in charge, but it was one brother that was doing all the dangerous work and really getting the job done. And this brother, he was about 6'8", and he would like say, hey, man, all y'all get out the way, I got this. And he go pulling plywood out the ceiling and knocking over 4x6 stringers, stuff collapsing, he bouncing off, ricocheting and getting up out of there and taking it all out. And when you got through, there was a structure there. So I said, okay, you the master, some kind of way, this man here is in charge of something. But he ain't doing nothing. So I'm like, all of this stuff is matching one particular species of people, just one. And they have to be one and the same. And then when you say people, places, times, and events, and literature,
it all matches, and the puzzle came together for me. And you was correct in telling the sister to read one book at a time. And but you got to remember and do some cross references and stuff in order to come to a conclusion to the point where you don't need no books. You just tell the truth, and it cannot be refuted because you know it inside out. And we ain't talking about believing nothing. We're talking about knowing it.
That's right.
I just want to add that little bit.
Right, that was great, Tarhaka. I certainly appreciate that. And see, people have to stay away from rumor history. I call it rumored history. I heard that this happened, but have you investigated whether that happened or not? Because the rumor that you heard may be wrong, or it could be right. Now, speaking about the Moors, I want to add this to our conversation about the Moors. I want the listening audience to know that beware of the Saracen Moor, the Saracen Moor, who came into Spain according to the story of the Saracens in 711 and brought Islam into Spain. Well, in 711, there was no religion on earth called Islam or Mohammedanism. None of that. Okay? So, and if you read the so-called history, that's where history comes in at, Brother Tarhaka, because it's made of misinformation. It's based on lies and deception. And the deception that they want to put into the mix of the Moors is that they bring you this Saracen story. And if you read that story, our people, the people who are called and identified as Saracen are invading, they're killing, they're dominating, and everything, all kinds of horrible things. And like you said, knowing our people, you say, well, no, that's not our people. Our people don't do nothing like that. It's against their spirituality. See? To dominate people, to go into a people's country and territory and land where they live and take over their land diminishes the people down to a servant or a slave, and then rape their women and deny them of their existence on earth, as according to their the creeds that they had established before you invaded into their country. You see, and then so you read about the Saracen doing all these things, and you say, well, no, that's not our people. Our people don't do nothing like that. Like I told you before, if our Africans who were asked to come into Spain by the white European Spanish-speaking people, they were asked to come in. They didn't come in as conquerors, because when you conquer an individual human being, you do not use his language. He has to use your language because you're the dominant force in this situation. So you're absolutely right. When you have to understand the human nature and the spirituality of our people. So when you read certain things, and certain things are used with the names coming that are used with our people and about our people, such as the ancient Egyptians and so forth and so on, when you read the behavior of other people or the people that they're naming ancient Egyptians and so forth, you say, well, no, that's not us. That's not my people. Like the chronology of ancient Egypt is another source that in my new book coming out, Dispelling Myths of Ancient Egypt, the second chapter, I have a warning in that chapter to all African scholars, teachers, intellectuals, and students. Do not use the chronology of ancient Egypt, because the chronology of ancient Egypt was not written, nor was it created by our ancient Egyptian ancestors during the time of antiquity. The chronologies, and I put the S on the end, the chronologies of ancient Egypt were created by Western academia using the Bible to do so. So therefore, when you read about Pianki, Shabaka, and all those names invading. They said Shabaka came from Ethiopia with his army, and he invaded Egypt, and it goes on and so forth. So don't fall for that. Know our ancestors' spirituality. Study it. Know the kind of people that we are as a human being today as we walk this earth. Okay? So therefore, one has to know this. It's very important what I'm about to say. The European has terrorized every inch of this planet that we call Earth, and every human living therein, this planet that we call Earth, including himself. But, listen to this, very important. No race of people living on this planet has ever invaded Europe and dominated the Europeans. Never. You cannot find not one race of people doing that. And don't tell me about a Hannibal. Never been a Hannibal. But anyway, that's what I have to say about that. You're absolutely right when you make those statements that you made, Brother Tarhaka.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a little quick break, and I'm going to get back with you, Brother UL, when we come back. Yeah, hold on.
The castle. So what's making these people so powerful? Family. I destroy the family, I destroy the empire. So they sold your mother one way and your father another way. They destroyed the family. That's what destroyed Africa. So we had to build family. A black man and a black woman in love, raising a healthy child is the most dangerous thing on this planet. We're looking for a gun. The gun is the relationship.
Some of the ways that black people can empower themselves, some of the solutions. One solution is what I call the CMB mentality. The C is basically you got to get a code of conduct, a way you think, a way you do business, a way you interact with other melanoid people.
So we have to, first of all, condition our youth and insulate them with knowing who they are, not what someone else has described them to be. We have to not permit everything and everybody to come in and define us. You know, we take on the definitions of others. And unfortunately, those definitions were never designed to make us be empowered. Dr. John Henry Clark used to say, you never expect powerful people to teach powerless people how to gain power.
Well, yes, you do need to vote locally because you need the type of characters that you know in office. You need to have somebody on the city council you can yell at. You go to church with their mama. And the only way that's going to happen on the zoning board. Okay, you got a business you want to open. Man, you can have your homeboy run for office, get on the zoning board. You can do that. But you got to understand politics locally. You got to go to your PTA meetings. You got to go to your neighborhood association meetings. You got to go to the city council meetings. You got to get out in your community again.
Estrange yourself from the Republican and the Democratic Party. Create your own. The Democrats and the Republicans are two fangs on the same snake.
First, you can't learn all these things in the public school system, and that includes college. You have to learn on your own outside of the system. You have to do your self-education, self-evaluation, which means you're going to be lonely because nobody likes a smart Negro. I mean, if you're trying to be intelligent, talk about your history and be more aware, you're going to turn a lot of black people off. The loneliness will drive you back and just getting a hair relaxed. The loneliness of being intelligent.
One of the challenges that black people have had is that our very psyche has been fractured through slavery, colonization, segregation, discrimination, Jim Crow. No people on the planet have gone through what we have gone through. So we've got to recognize that as a fundamental reality. That still shapes and drives our consciousness. So we are dysfunctional people. You know, we've been programmed to be dysfunctional. So it's going to take a special type of concentration of thought and energy in order to repair our psyche. So in that context, we also can see very clearly that no people on this planet have gone through what we've gone through and progress to the extent that we've progressed. So that to me is an indicator that there's something in us. There's a presence, there's a power, there's a spirit, there's a force, whatever you want to call it, that's in us that has protected protected us to some extent. Despite all the negativity that we've gone through, something has protected us and allowed us to make something out of nothing and rise to the top despite all the opposition in our way.
Know who you are, know the people you come from, and be clear about where you're going. And make sure that you leave something behind that's worth remembering.
We have to start to look at education. We have to begin to educate our own children. You know, people say, can white people teach black children? Yes, they can. I've known many good European math teachers, good science teachers. My problem is that they should not teach children.
All right, we're back. Brother UL?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you did we shed some light on the questions you have for Dr. Williams so far?
Yes.
Sound like your phone breaking up.
Okay, is that better? Okay.
That's better.
Yes, you did, but I didn't get what you think this is all about here and where this is going. Is it spiritual, or this is some people making some dumb mistakes, or what?
You brought that spiritual part up, so you answer that.
No, that was my answer, Doc.
Oh, okay. Okay, your answer is what now? Repeat that. Your answer again.
Oh no! Now you want me to repeat my answer? I think it's spiritual. Is what I think it is. I said that. I just wanted to know what y'all thought about it because, like I said, sometimes when I look at them in the back in history, looking at how they're complicit in certain things, I wonder what you're doing there. Why are you doing that? And so therefore, I don't know whether I hate them or love them. So today, sometimes when you look at some of the things that they do, you might think that these guys were, some of these guys would be called today maybe Uncle Tom's or some other kind of name for them when they're helping the European do things that in actuality hurt you. Because keep in mind, if those of our people who were here free, like in the movie 12 Years a Slave, what were they doing to help their other brothers and sisters who were enslaved? So when I look at those things, that's why I just started wondering, well, is this spiritual, or is this some people doing some dumb things? And something bigger is taking place than what the dumb things that they're doing.
Okay,
so that's how I see it.
Let's say it's a mixture of both. Okay? We're gonna split it. We're gonna say it's a mixture of both. But our people are coming back.
There go that butt.
That butt. Okay? But they're coming back. Okay? they begin to resurrect themselves. It may be slow, but they're getting there. They're gonna get there. So yes, I would say it's both of the situations which you point spiritual and on purpose or a dumb thing or whatever the case might be. So that will give you the balanced answer to the question that you propose.
Is that what you say, Brother Tarhaka?
Well, I look at it this way. I believe, and the reason I'm using the word believe now is because I'm dealing with what I know for a fact. You can't make a difference. You can't do nothing unless you, and you can't do better unless you know better. In order for you to know better, you're going to have the information in your head to do so. I've been encouraging the brothers and sisters, regardless of what they have recently found out about themselves of being Moors and all of this stuff, to do an investigation. And when you do an investigation and you gather the facts, that's artillery. That's something that you can use when you know that you know that you know that you know. then I feel like at that point you're ready to make some progress. But if you got enough money to go and buy feds, but you don't want to, and you want to go and attend a meeting like a church ceremony and sit in that audience and listen to somebody tell you about who you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to be doing and how you're supposed to be carrying yourself, instead of you finding out everything that you could possibly do for yourself and learn for yourself. You, in my opinion, I don't think you're ever gonna be able to be effective at all. So it boils down to me a personal investigation. What is it that you're doing to learn for yourself? What type of investments have you made to benefit you and your family? Did you go out and spend $1,500 and putting chrome rims on your car, or did you go out and invest $1,500 into books and educational materials written by the people that look like you to learn something about yourself so that you can have some power? That's the way I see it, because I talk to a lot of brothers. They are Moors. They have all this information in their head, but they haven't done anything. They haven't read a book. They haven't purchased a book. They haven't completed a book. They haven't done any cross-reference, no dictionaries, no etymology, no nothing, no mathematics. No, they haven't come out and designed anything that can be used to benefit their people or done anything. They're not effective. So that's the way I see it. That's the way I see it.
Who's doing that rattling?
That's Brother Yusufil. But I think he's digging through them books. He's gonna bring out some stuff. But that's my answer to the question. Did that help you out, Brother Yoel?
Yeah.
Okay. Because if you ain't doing that, in my opinion, you ain't doing that. I mean, if you gonna tell somebody something, what kind of proof you got? If you gonna start telling somebody, well, you got to do this, you got to do that, okay, here go the evidence to back it up. I had a gentleman come over to the house the other day because we had a little hurricane damage down there, and he's a Caucasian gentleman. He said, well, I'm here to take the measurements and look at the damage and this stuff. And he came in, and when he came in, he saw the books, the bookcase full, and he seen a table full. And he said, well, what do you do? And, of course, I love that question. I say, I teach my people their ancient story, and I also teach his story. He said, oh, okay. So I went in one room, and when I came back out, he said, I got a question for you. Who was the first president, the first person that ran for president of the United States? I said, well, that had to be John Hanson. He said, oh, yeah, you're right. He said, but a lot of people tell me something about Shirley Chisholm. I said, well, no, Hanson, he was a Moor. David Banneker, they were Moors. They dealt with supreme mathematics from 0 to 9. You don't get in trouble until you start talking about 10, 11, and 12 and stuff like that, because you got out the main equation, and then I poured it to the board and went through the math and stuff there on the board and stuff. And I said, and before you even get to it, I said, I got college professors that try to take me to lunch, but I don't go. He said, well, I take you to lunch. I said, oh, no. No, you're not going to take me to lunch. So not having the facts is not enough. No evidence, no case. If you're going to talk about something, have the facts to back it up so you can put the facts on the table, back up, and let them examine the facts for themselves so they can come to the conclusion that you came to based on the facts that you can prove. You're not just talking about something off the top of your head or something you done went in the church and somebody done stood up on a podium and told you. You did your own investigation based on the materials that you have invested in because of the seriousness of what you're going to do with this kind of power. That's my my little bit right there.
That's great, Brother Yoel and Brother Tarhaka. That's really, really great. That takes you out of the realm of rumored history. See, that rumor out there will get you in trouble historically, because when you bring up rumored history, to me, I'm going to ask you, what date are you talking about? And rumored history is not going to give you that because you haven't done no research, because you're going by what somebody else told you, and then search it out for yourself. So what you're saying is absolutely very, very right and very powerful, Brother Tarhaka.
Well, I use the same thing over and over and over again. I don't beat nobody up about not knowing stuff, and I have walked into rooms and seen people standing in line, but when they see me walk in the room, it's time for them to get off the podium. They're looking for a hole to get out of, because here he comes. And not only is he going to tell the truth, he's going to point to where you can go get the truth that he derived it from. Is from your own, not only your own personal investigation. Reading books is just part of it. It's just a smidget of it. You have to pay attention to your environment, your people, what they do, their nature, their behavioral patterns, the movements of the planets, your astrology, the whole nine. How do your body function? What's your blood pressure? What makes you function better on what natural diet? How much food should you eat in a given day? What should you drink? Are you paying attention to your bowel movements? This is what we call knowledge of self. This is what I call knowledge of self. Learn everything that you can possibly learn about yourself and be able to present evidence of where you got it from. It ain't nothing but wrong with being wrong. You could be wrong, and the way you get right, if you're wrong, you can correct responses as you go along. Now, in my personal opinion, all people on the planet have a nationality. My personal opinion, the only people in this country that are Indians are people who came from the continent of India. That's keeping everything in line with the fact that there are people that are Chinese, and there's a land called China. There are people that are Cuba, there's a land called Cuba. There's people that are this, and it's all matching. So when you tell me something about a Negro, colored, black, African American, and all this right here stuff, or you start telling me something about white, and I'm looking at it. Even if you tell me Mexican and Puerto Rican, I'm going to do an investigation to find out the facts. That's how I do it. That's just the way I do it. If you tell me something about the swine flu, I'm going down in our ancient story, and then I'm gonna look at history and see where it came from. The people are bringing out brand new diseases on us every year, and we going out regurgitating them. Well, they got the Zika virus, and they got cerebral palsy, and they got it. Wait a minute. I ain't found none of that nowhere. What is this? It seems to me that somebody is manufacturing something and labeling it, and we grabbing the football and running with it. All kind of stuff going on.
Wow.
I'm a diabetic. I got high blood pressure. How do you know? What kind of investigation have you done on your blood pressure? How you know? Or you done went to a quack and he done told you, well, you psychomatic. What the hell is that? Well, I'm just saying, man. I don't want to cut, but I'm just saying how we be doing stuff, and then we analyze that. Well, he did. Man, there was a woman one time. I got to tell y'all this. There was this girl. She was a young girl. She didn't know nothing, and she was just sleeping and they're throwing all up, and the mama sent her to the doctor. She come back and told her mama, say, well, the doctor say, the reason why all this going on is because I have a touch of pregnancy. He said, I'm not really pregnant. I just have a touch of it. And her mama said, let me tell you something, fool. You but the doctor said, it's just a touch. He said, yeah, you were touched by the right man. That's what happened to you. And my point is, we are dead serious. And I keep asking the same questions over and over and over and over again. Well, you know, the Lord say I have to hold it right there. When the last time you seen it? What side of town did you see him on? And when we get rid of all of these things that we believe in, that we ain't got no facts to prove and back up and replace that with common sense, I think that we will truly can be free. But if you remove that, then the scales will fall from your eyes, and you will know who your enemies are. You know their behavioral patterns, and you know exactly what to do about them. Now, this is what they don't want you to do. So they constantly give us stuff to believe in. In my opinion, if you're going to believe in something, believe in you.
That's correct. That's right. Do we have another caller there, Brother Tarhaka?
No, we done. They done ran that. We don't have any other callers other than the one that's already there. I'm going back up here to 818 to see if he got him that. Daddy. Area code 818. I know you got them grandbabies in there. I hear them. You on the phone?
Yeah, this is Brother Jay. I just wanted to say this is an awesome show tonight, and Dr. Williams has been amazing again, and I like the enlightenment from Brother Yoel, even though he was dropping those butts in there.
He's entitled to a few butts.
Yeah, he is entitled to a few butts. But Dr. Williams is amazing, and it's just been an enlightening experience for me, and that's all. I just really had a comment more than the question. That was about all.
Okay, all right, Brother Jay.
He got them grandbabies on. I heard one in the background. He over there rotting them up. I knew what he did.
His babies. It may be James' babies.
No, he's too young to have grandchildren.
Yeah,
all right, brother.
They had them James babies. He made them.
Whose babies?
I said them James babies. He ain't know his grandbabies.
James baby, what's that?
That was his babies. You call it his grandbabies.
Oh, them his babies. Oh, okay. All right. I remember. I heard a little voice in the background, and I know how it is on the weekend with them grandbaby building. They can't do no wrong. They knock on stuff. That's all right. Well, you know how he go around the table, and it's amazing. Because when we was growing up, we got the brakes beat off of us. But then when the grandbaby come on, the people that done the beat, they said, well, he's different. He did. Wait a minute. He did the same thing I did 10 years ago. You almost broke my leg. How come he You don't understand. Help me to understand. Anyway, I'm going to take one more little quick break. And no, I ain't. No. We ain't gonna do that until the end. But what I want y'all to do for me is, in closing, what you got to say, Brother Yoel, about your location, how to get in touch with you, and the books that you have to offer and where we can get them from.
Well, yeah, I don't know if I should say that or I should get that to the good professor there and let him give me that beautiful commercial that he put out there.
Well, okay.
He does it very well.
Go first.
It's committed to memory, but I'll go ahead and say it. Okay. We're in the city of Chicago here, an underground bookstore located at 1727 East 87th Street, Chicago. and that phone number is 773-768-8869. And you can email us at theundergroundbookstore at gmail.com or undergroundbookstore1@gmail in Chicago. So those are the ways you can get in contact with us and get these books. And for those people who ain't started the journey, you can start them by ordering your books through Underground Bookstore. And the sister, she said she got the message. And I tell you, you hit on the most important thing to me. One of the things, the mantras that I'm pounding this year is, how black are you? How much money did you spend today with your black people? So stop going to what's convenient for you and going to the internet and Amazon to get what you need. Go to a black business if you got one, or if you can order it through one and they can get it for you, and order your book through them, or whatever that is, the product that you're looking for. Give them a chance, So that's what I'm pounding right now, for us to do more showing our blackness through who we buy our books from, or any other product.
Okay. Well, Dr. Williams, what you got for us?
Well, as the listening audience should know by now, I'm the author of 2 books. One, The Historical Origin of Christianity. That book has been out the beginning of this coming year, 2018. It has been out in the public arena for 25 years. And the thesis of that book is saying that there's never been a man that ever walked the earth in human form of any race, creed, or color by the name of Jesus Christ. Never existed. And with that being said, I have a $5,000 award to give to anybody of any race, creed, or color, including the Pope, that can repudiate me by using the discipline of history. You can't use anything but the discipline of history. You can't use the Bible. You can't use what you believe, and you can't use what you have faith in. You can't use what you think. You have to use the discipline of history. Because in both of my books, I did not use not one biblical references, not one Islamic Quranic references for the historical origins of Islam. I used the discipline of history to write both books. And I have a $5,000 award to give to anybody of any race, creed, or color, including the Pope, that can use the discipline of history and prove that a character by the name of Jesus Christ walked this earth as a human being. In the historical origin of Islam book, it's been out this coming 2018. It'll be out for 15 years. And the thesis of that book is saying there's never been a man that ever walked the earth in human form of any race, creed, or color by the name of a Prophet Muhammad of Islamic tradition. And that $5,000 award is given to anybody that can prove the difference. But you have to use the discipline of history. You cannot use the Quran, any kind of biblical traditional literature. You got to use the discipline of history by your own personal research. And also that $5,000 award is given to anybody that can prove any character that's abounding in the Bible, such as Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, Sarah, Gideon, Esau, David, Joshua, or Solomon walked this earth, or any biblical character walked this earth as a human being. If you can prove it by using the discipline of history, you'll get to $5,000. Now, if you don't, you can't do it yourself. If you know somebody that can do it, go and get them, and I'll give you a $2,000 finder's fee to do that. Now, to purchase my 2 books, The Historical Origin of Christianity and the Historical Origin of Islam. You can purchase this book, both books, through the underground bookstore that Brother Yoel had mentioned and told you about. And I will go over it again. You can purchase both of my books, Historical Origin of Christianity, Historical Origin of Islam, at the underground bookstore, located in Chicago, Illinois. Located at 1727 East 87th Street. Phone number, area code 773-768-8869. 773-768-8869. Not only can you order my books, Brother Yoel didn't mention this, but he can find old and rare books for you that's out of print. So not only can you order my 2 books from me, you can put in a request if you have some old rare books that you know is out of print and you can't find. Call Brother Yoel at area code 773-768-8869, the underground bookstore. And to the listening audience, I want to say to you, I love you, and I thank you so much for listening, and I thank the callers that called in. I want to let them know that I love them, and I hope that the information coming from this broadcast provided by my dear brother, Dr. Tarhaka Amana Bey, will be beneficial to you and help you expand your knowledge, because we need the expansion of our knowledge. In other words, we as the African people in this country are going to have to stop revolving and start to evolve. That means to grow. So thanks again for my dear brother, Dr. Tarhaka Amana Bey, for giving me this platform that he offers to me every month, the last Sunday of every month. He offers this program and this platform for me to come on and together with guests like Brother Yoel and Dr. Tarhaka Amana Bey and callers like Brother Jay and other callers and the young lady that called up, we can expand our knowledge in among our people, our African people in America and throughout the world. So thank you, Brother Tarhaka, for supplying and allowing this platform to go forward. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, my brother. And I thank you for being on, and we will be talking a little bit later on. Ladies and gentlemen, we come down to the close of the broadcast, and I thank you all for being here. Keep in mind that when we have these broadcasts, you're not isolated. All you have to do is press 1 on your phone. That'll give me an indication that you have something to say. We'll open up the line so you can get in here and communicate with us. You may have read some books that can shed some light on some things that we have going on. But nevertheless, you are welcome. I have been your host, Tarhaka Amana Bey, and until next time,